Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so Ebony Maw update has gone live as well, and like with War Machine, like with Ultron, we're gonna be checking out Ebony Maw's damage pre-buff with and without synergy teams and compare it to what his damage is post-buff. Now I do have a 6-star rank 1 duped Ebony Maw, which we're going to use for testing purposes. I am running Suicide Masteries, which isn't exactly ideal with Ebony Maw, and that is just something that we're going to have to bear in mind. His attack is increased by 60% due to Suicide Masteries. Other than that, all of the videos feature exactly the same mastery setup, therefore there is no significant difference there. And you need to keep in mind that I'm not exactly Ebony Maw perfectionist or extraordinary. Let's face it, nobody really is, because he was hitting like a noodle, which is going to be evident in this video right here. So I do know the basic gist of it. I do know how to do his missions. You need to drain opponent's power, you need to nullify a fury buff, and you need to make him miss. All of three things I have already done in this fight. And besides that, for most part, you just kind of want to throw your level 2s in order to inflict degen and benefit from deterioration mechanic, which increase the potency of the degen per deterioration, but it really doesn't help all that much. You can see a slight degen increase, and at some point I'm going to try and max out deterioration to 20. That's why I'm going to drop a level 3 in this fight. But even with 20 deteriorations, the degen is going to be fairly pathetic. We can see that opponent is never going to falter, therefore that is level 2 is my only way to make him degen again. That was one of the critical flaws of Ebony Maw previously. Once you reached 100 charges, you just all opponents stopped faltering, and you had much harder time to play and trigger the degeneration, which is something they did fix with his update. And the rest of the fight is going to be pretty straightforward here. I'm just going to let deterioration build up to my level 2, and drop it and see whatever damage degen does. Now I do know that I could have reduced the hit count had I been spamming more heavy attacks, because with heavy attacks he actually gains an ability to steal portion of opponent's power, and obviously heavies would reduce the hit count in itself, because per hit they do more damage than your regular combo hits do. So if I just tried to parry heavy a lot, I would have definitely finished the fight, maybe slower but with less hits. But I don't think anybody really would want to sit and watch that. Anyways, even this fight in itself is very long and drawn out. You can see that 144 hits in the fight. Winter Soldier's still at like 56%, and it's not going too great. So I'm going to drop a level 3 to demonstrate how that works as well. Why not? It will not really be changed once the update hits. Either way, you're just going to be able to get slightly more power than you did before. So with level 3, it is kind of decent cool looking though, I guess. I kind of like the idea of Ebony Maw just, performing surgery in the middle of the fight and somehow managing to leave the opponent alive. But hey, whatever. Right, so we have 20 deteriorations here, so this is going to be max degeneration damage Ebony Maw can do in the first fight. Now, keep in mind that he does have persistent charge mechanic, and technically he is a ramp-up character, but neither pre or post buff that ramp up is that significant. Post buff, it's going to be somewhat slightly more meaningful because it will increase his degen damage or duration, but that's just about it. And 467 is the max degen with 20 deteriorations that I'm able to inflict here, and it's quite pathetic. So I'm just going to fast forward through the rest of the fight, and we can see why nobody uses Ebony Maw. The 6-star with Suicide Masteries doing its best, but best just isn't good enough. 343 hits, critting for like 1900, 3000 when we're in Assassin's range with Courage Mass Reactor. It's just not a great look at all. Next up, we're going to be moving to Ebony Maw with Synergy Team, and there are some significant changes that I have to explain. Now, Airwalker significantly increases his attack pre-buff. The post-buff, it is not anywhere near as important of a synergy, it just will let him ramp up quicker. And Strife will let him falter opponents once he reaches 100 charges, and also gives him slight attack increase when opponents are faltering, I think, or once you have reached 100 charges, something like that. And then a couple of base stat synergies with Call and Iron Man, like more crits and stuff like that. So let's gonna go in here. So His previous fight was well over 300 hits, which we can use as our baseline. I'm actually going to double check it after this fight. Now, with full-on synergy team, Ebony Maw is going to be doing better. There's just no denying it, because you keep faltering the opponent. You have more degen triggers, because you can degen opponent every time you force them to miss. And in general, it's just more damage because of all the increased crit, base stats, increased attack, and everything else. He definitely does significantly better. How much better, though, is the question, right? And unfortunately, the answer is just not good enough for a champion that doesn't exactly have the greatest kit in the world. Don't get me wrong, Ebony Maw's ability kit is not awful by any means. He has power drain on his heavy attacks and level 3. He has some nullification abilities on his special 1. And then he has degeneration abilities and obviously ability to have opponents falter. But it's just not quite good enough. It's definitely nowhere near good enough to warrant bringing in a full synergy team for Ebony Maw, at least pre-buff. And he's still on the weak side, even with a full synergy team supporting him. He really is truly one of the biggest failures of the guy who brought us Dr. Doom and many amazing champions. This guy was just so pathetic. But that's the point of this video, to showcase the difference. Right, so I'm gonna fast forward here a bit so you guys don't have to watch it all. I'm gonna not pause, but release here on one of the level 2s here. The idea is to try and use a level 2 when opponent is faltering in order to get most damage. Unfortunately, I didn't do it here. However, it is still better damage with that synergy team active. We can see it's 10k crits. Here we have like some 3k crits. Again, it's nothing amazing by any stretch of imagination. And just like I mentioned before, I could have reduced the amount of hits if I spammed more heavy attack more frequently, because heavy attacks do more damage and cause less hits on my combo meter, and I would gain power quicker, therefore I would be able to use my special 2s quicker. But yeah, we're just gonna go with our standard 5-hit rotations, level 2s. We're gonna try and get opponent well, we're going to try and build up some deteriorations, trigger the falter, have some extra attack increase from that, but in general, there's nothing too exciting. Over the time, we can see those significant increase in damage with the synergy team. So with synergy team pre-buff, we finished the fight at 227 hits. So that's pre-buff with synergies 227, and without synergy team it was 350. So it is a significant increase, definitely over like 50% attacking damage increase throughout the course of the fight, but it's nothing to brag about. Now post buff without synergy team, and that is one of the things that we're going to realize in this video, is that post buff the synergy team is not as important anymore, because the ability to keep opponents faltering now has been moved to his base kit, which is kind of like the most important thing that was happening there. Other than that, you play him pretty much exactly the same. There is just one thing that has become a lot more finicky and a lot more important, and that is that you activate your level 2 whilst opponent's faltering, and that is one of the key conditions. Now here I wanted to have opponent miss. I'm going to drop my level 1 to place the Fury on Winter Soldier, and then immediately drop another level 1 to nullify that Fury. Doing that, we complete basically the first 3 missions in the fight that we can do. And now, starting this point, the fight is, again, straightforward. We're just gonna go and drop our level 2s and try and time with our falter buffs. Because if we drop level 2, if opponent isn't faltering, then they only get 1 degen per hit. If opponent is faltering, then we place 3 degens. So there is a huge, huge difference, and that will cause basically some finicky timing, which is something I'm starting to get more and more worried about, because in Winter Soldier fight, it's easy to time it almost always, but if the fight is tricky hard, where you need to bait opponent's special attacks frequently, where you need to dodge a ton of stuff, I just don't think it is the most viable strategy in a difficult fight, where you need to have some perfect clockwork, in addition to other limitations Ebony Maw has, which is one of the reasons why I don't really think he's gonna be, let's say, the degen god or whatever. Just because in order to get his max potential, you do need to time it pretty much exactly, because you need to activate your level 2 as that falter is activating. It's just not quite long enough to like comfortably feel that you don't need to kind of like constantly think about it. It's always back of your mind. It's always something you need to keep paying attention to. And I'm not really a fan of that aspect. You can see that I'm having to cut my combos short. I'm always watching like the timers, parry timer, in order to make sure that I'm dealing the max damage. Now, we cannot deny there is a huge damage increase. If previously degen with 20 deteriorations was barely going over like 400, then we see significantly higher degen ticking for like 1400 per stack or something like that. So it is a lot of degen damage, and that is evident. This fight previously was like 350 hits. Now 119 hits is at 30%. So we're gonna fast forward here to the end. I did mess up once. I shot my level 2 in the block, which is my fault, but I made up for it throwing a few heavy attacks, thus racing back up to my degen. Now another level 2, we can see the degen's definitely putting in significant amount of work. He's at 9%. We're about to finish off the fight, and he went from somebody that takes 350 hits to 170 hits. So it's double the damage output. Unfortunately, I just still don't think it's good enough. There are a lot of champions that have more to offer, take less stress playing, and you have to be worried about less things and get the job done quicker. So I do think Ebony Maw is miles better than he was offensively. He's twice as good as he was before. I just don't think it's good enough. I just don't think 170 something hits. And again, I know that I could have brought the hit counter by playing even more with heavy attacks and stuff like that. I just don't see it. I think for Ebony Maw to have been a great, viable Mystic champion that you might potentially consider giving your tier 5 class catalyst outside of Alliance for defense, you needed more damage. That is unfortunately what I think about the champion. I think that it's definitely a lot better. I just don't really think he's good enough competing in the same class as Sorcerer Supreme, Dragon Man, Doctor Doom, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, all of those champions. After having played with Ebony Maw, I don't quite see the reason to choose this guy over any of them. Yes, the degen damage is nice, but it's not like it's absolutely insane. Yes, they doubled his damage output, but if his damage output is absolutely pathetic to begin with, doubling it might not have been good enough. I genuinely was hoping for a bit more. But anyhow, worthwhile to mention, once again, I'm using exactly the same synergy team as I am from the first video. Same mastery setup, same everything, and obviously, yes, you are doing a lot more damage. Previously, this fight with the synergy team was like 227, 240 hits, something like that. And now it is going to be quicker. But again, with the clock watching, with everything else, I just don't know. He's not doing as well as I would have hoped he would be. I think that is quite safe to say. So here I'm just going to drop my level 2, and that's going to take him down. And we can see that the damage is here, 146 hits. 146 hits with full-on synergy team. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think I will be able to recommend people ranking up this guy. I think it's going to be a similar situation with Terex, where Terex is a lot better offensively, but putting right next to Venom and stuff like that. If you're going to rank up Terex for defense, good. At least he will have some offensive uses. And same situation here. If you're going to end up ranking up Ebony Maw for defense, good. At least you will be able to get some use out of him offensively. But if you have some choices to make, I think Mystic class has plenty of other better options. Overall, I think for the value update, definitely the improvement is huge. It's just not quite big enough to push his way up the rankings too high and be a candidate for Mystic Tier 5 CC outside of Alliance for Defense. That being said, let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya!